So a lot of you have been asking for AMD tech to be featured in the channel, and it's really not up to me. It's kind of only what I can get my hands on, but the guys over at UDOO sent this out to me. It is the UDOO Bolt Gear. Now this features an AMD embedded system on a chip solution, and this one here is the V1605B. Maximum turbo is 3.6 gigahertz. It's a quad core with 8 threads in total. It can take up to 32 gigabytes of RAM using SODIMM slots there. It has 2 of them, of course. And it also can run up to 4 monitors at 4K 60 Hz, which is pretty impressive when you see the size of this thing. So in this review, I'll go through quickly the unboxing, what we get in the package, setting it up a little bit, and of course some performance tests, some benchmarks, use, and even exporting some 4K video, 1 minute of footage, which it does it in a surprisingly fast and quick time, which I didn't really expect to see from this. And overall, at the end, my opinions of using this after a few days, what I like and what I don't particularly like about it.
So it comes in this rather large box for such a small PC, but that's because we've got all of these parts right here at stake. So we've got the UDOO Bolt V8, the middle case, Wi-Fi module, our power supply, the EU and US cable. So what we are going to need, of course, is RAM and SSD, and we're also going to need an operating system as well with this. So here are the contents. There's the case. Under here you will find our PCB, the little motherboard, the fan, all in one unit there. And it's just got so much in this, and I'll get onto that very shortly too. But here are our power cables. So we've got US 1, and there is the Euro power cable, and right here is our power supply. Now this power supply, I can see, is rated to a maximum of 65 watts, this one. And they also include these 3 UDOO stickers, which is nice of them to put that into the box there. So there is a guide here to get set up and started. So this is talking about how to install the wireless Wi-Fi module, installing our RAM, and how to assemble the case. It is pretty straightforward. I think most people should not have any troubles with this. And then on the other side too, it's just telling us what we get, of course, inside this box here if you were to buy this particular Bolt Gear kit. So top-down view of this motherboard, and you can see just how much have they managed to get crammed into this thing. It's just absolutely amazing how they've done this. So what we've got is 2 upright RAM slots here, SODIMMs. Now you can install up to 32 gigabytes. I have 16 installed already. 2 USB 3 ports right here. We've got a front-facing, this is 3.5mm with microphone support, so that's for your headsets. And there's also a 3.5 audio out right here. 2 HDMI 2s, that's 4K 60 they support. And then 2 USB 3.1 ports. These also support 4K 60 on that. So yes, 4 displays out on this, 4K 60, all of them. That is really something from just one tiny little board. Gigabit LAN is there as well, and we also do have a 3.5mm audio out, which is there as well too. Now, both of those Type-C ports, they do also support power delivery in and out, so that is great to see. There's also on this side plenty more connectors, so we do have some Groove connectors. We've got the Arduino compatible pinout as well here for those of you that are into, for example, building robots or drones or just other things like that. You've got plenty of options. SATA 3 or SATA 3 and the SATA power out there on that one too as well. So there's just, as I mentioned, there's so many options here. Now this also does have on board a compatible microcontroller for that Arduino, which is the ATmega32 U4. That's on board this particular PCB. Then on the other side, we've got a lot of storage options. So right here, we have an NVMe. So this is PCI times 4. This is key M. And that M.2 slot is 2280 in size, of course. So that's for our fast SSD. So I will be installing one of these right here, which is a Sabre, and that's 2 terabytes. Really quick drive. And this is where our wireless AC card goes. So that is included in the box. This is it right here. I will also install that. It's the Intel Wireless AC 3138, so not the 3135 that I commonly see, but just a slightly different model there to that one. And then 2 antennas for our wireless. Now, a little tip here with the wireless antennas, when you install them in the case, you put them on the side, but you want to put it on the side you know that is actually facing towards your wireless router, just to aid a little bit in that speed there, of course. And of course, you've got the LAN port there too, if you don't want to go wireless, so you don't have to install them. So I have my NVMe drive installed here. That's 22 by 80, but sorry, I made a mistake before that. This is not a 2280 size one, but this is in fact 22 by 60 millimeters. And I've got a SanDisk that I'm going to install on there, but first I need to connect up the wireless antennas for the wireless card, which I have already installed. So this is very, very easy to do. You just slot them in place, screw them down, and the build quality of this board, I just wanted to comment on, is excellent. It is really good. So this, I believe, is the way it will go in, and you just need to then slot the inner part in here, and then you need to just pull it up. Once it goes inside the case here, you've got to pull it up and then screw it into place. I'll show you the end result once I get this done. Just make sure those cables aren't in the way there, and you pull it up, and you can see the fan is actually just right under here. So this is what the end result will look like without having, of course, the wireless antennas just floating around. I need to find an ideal position and where to put them exactly, which I'll get onto later. So here we can see it's quite good. There's got this gap underneath here. That's actually where you put the 2.5-inch drive. So they've included all the screws and bits and pieces you need for that. So right here is where you would do that. So 2.5-inch drive goes here, and the cable comes just underneath there, keeping it neat and tidy and clean. And you put some rubber feet on too as well. Will go here and here. And you can also mount this. These points here are for VESA mounting too as well. And here's what the back of it looks like too. Again, just ignore my wireless antennas there floating around. So very good build quality. This case overall is really solid, and I like the design. It is definitely different from the typical kind of ones we get, this kind of size at least, from Intel, for example. So first up, our BIOS, and yes, of course, it is completely unlocked here. Now, there are some interesting settings to go into. So one of them is under AMD, a CBS, and this is our power limit. You want to go into MBIO common options. If this hasn't been set already, mine out of the box was actually set to 25 watts. This is our TDP. It could be on 15, but set it to 25, of course, which I will be running the entirety of this review here to make sure that we do have maximum performance. So if I get out of this, I'll just quickly show you that we've got a lot of other different options in here. Everything you can pretty much think of is all here. So it's completely unlocked, and there's lots of settings in there. You could mess up, but if you do run into problems, just unplug that battery on the other side of the motherboard to completely reset the BIOS, of course. But let's jump into Windows now, which I have already installed, set up, and got all the drivers installed as well. So I didn't have too much of an issue to get set up. You just have to download the drivers from AMD for this particular chipset here. So this system on a chip is the embedded V1605B, and it does have the Vega 8 graphics. So if I move over to the graphics there, you can see we've got 1 gigabyte that is allocated to that. So that's shared RAM, but of course we lose that. So out of the 16 gigabytes, I'm only going to have around 15 or so, that you can use there. So the maximum turbo of this one is up to 3.6 gigahertz. It's 4 cores, 8 threads, and overall the performance, I've been doing a bit of a test. Ever so slightly disappointing. I was expecting maybe a little bit too much out of this chip, but I'll show you some of the results here. So first up, Cinebench R15 here. So just over 500 CB. That is actually pretty good. Okay, this is not bad at all. That's not a bad result. Cinebench R20. That should be popping in, but it hasn't. There we go. That one is just over 1,000 points there, and okay, I was expecting maybe about 1,100, a little bit more than this, but hey, it's still pretty good for what it is. And I did also run benchmarks, including Geekbench 5 here that you can see, so almost 800 there, and this is where I just thought a little bit disappointing. Now, I'm sure the Intel guys, well, the AMD guys, sorry, in the comments are going to say, yeah, but this benchmark favors Intel, blah, blah, blah. But hey, I'm just showing it. This is just all reference. Okay, I don't care about AMD, Intel sort of stuff. And here we go. Here is Geekbench 4.2. And this result, this is where, again, I thought it would be a little bit better, but hey, it's not too bad for what it is, okay? This is just a small little chip that can do a lot on this motherboard as well. Now, just for reference here, okay, this is just reference. This is the score I got with the Intel part that I just reviewed last mini PC. It's only because it was the last one I reviewed, and it gets a much higher score. And that's the same kind of setup with the 4 cores, 8 threads, but it has a much higher turbo. This one can turbo up to single core 4.6, so a full gigahertz more on that, and that is probably why it gets those better results there. And yes, yeah, maybe Intel Geekbench does favor Intel. Who knows, okay? But I'm not really too worried about that. I'm just reporting the facts here, guys, on what I get with scores with this one. So, I am benchmarking the drive that I installed, which is that Sabrent Rocket 2TB. Excellent result. So there's no problems here with that port running at the full speeds that it should. Definitely that NVMe drive, that slot there. And of course, you've got the option of adding a SATA 3 2.5 inch, and you can also add in a SATA 3 M.2 SSD 2260 millimeters is the size that you can do. So typical spreadsheets and things like that, really good performance. So this is quite a big one, okay, 859 pages, because it actually is quite taxing. That's why I test it out. I normally test this on more lower end tech, but even so, I just thought I would show this. And spreadsheets as well, quite large one here, 700 pages. Again, for these kind of tasks, with Windows at least, it handles it really well. No problems at all with this. It's really good. So I'll jump into some video files as well too, because I want to see how it performs with playback of something really demanding. So first up, this one is a 4K 60 frames per second. And look at this. It is really good. Pretty much flawless, that is. And I'll skip ahead. Again, really good performance. So that Vega 8 graphics is handling that really well. Okay, what about if we step it up even more now with higher bit rate, HEVC 10-bit, 140 megabits per second. Look at that. Super smooth. Absolutely no problems there whatsoever. So it handles video files really, really great. No problems with that there at all. Now, if I was to jump into Chrome performance is stating the obvious here. It is really good, okay? No problems, lots of tabs open, and the performance, as expected, there's no need for me to cover that one there. But what I will look at briefly is we're just going to jump into Adobe Premiere Pro, and I just want to show you what it is like at editing 4K video and our export times with this one as well. So here we are. So I'm just going to scrub ahead a little bit here and we'll take a look. You can see that the CPU loads get up to about 90%. In fact, it'll probably max out with this one. Now I have got the preview window here just set at quarter playback resolution. So I'll set it to full. It's probably going to be a little bit too demanding, but see, a little bit slow there to catch up. But actually that's pretty good. That's not bad at all. And I hit play here and a little bit slow, but there we go. That kicks off and no problem really with this. So you'll be able to edit and do these kind of tasks here with nothing too strenuous in terms of videos with like heaps of tracks. You don't want to have a lot of tracks. You don't want to have a lot of transitions and things. And then you will definitely start to notice a little bit of slowdown, I feel, with this. So if you stick that on half or a quarter with our playback resolution, that is definitely going to aid in this video editing performance, I find too. So I'm going to do the typical test that I like to run, and that is to export now. I'm going to export just 1 minute of footage, at the YouTube preset, okay, which is just under here. So that is YouTube 4K Ultra HD, and I'll find and get 1 minute of footage right here, and we'll see how long it takes. I will also have this timed too as well. So I'm going to tap on the export here, and then I'm going to hit the OK on the clock. In fact, I'll hit the clock first, and it's just giving it out by 1 or 2 seconds, all right? So start and then export. Okay, see how long this takes. It's actually looking very good. Now, the last Intel I checked out did take 1 minute and 18 seconds to do 1 minute of footage 4K. And this is looking impressive. Well, it's going to be close. It was off to a really good start, but I still think it's going to be able to beat the Intel here. In terms of, definitely, look at this. Okay, when that disappears, okay, so you can take that as an actually probably 59 seconds because it was about a second before I hit the export. That is an excellent result. So that is a good, you could say almost what, 20 or 18% faster than that last quad-core Intel Mini PC. So really impressive. I'm really happy to see this actually, that it's really quite good at exporting. That time is definitely not what I expected considering the other benchmarks. It just goes to show you, you can't always just rely on those synthetic benchmarks, but real-world tests like this one. Now I have run a 3D Mark benchmark here. This is Firestrike, and it's nearing towards 1900. That's the score we get with this one, and I'm going to test out some gaming performance. So I do have in the background already running loaded up, and that is Wolfenstein 2 which runs with Vulkan graphics, which should actually be okay here with this particular mini PC. We should get some decent performance, at least at 720p. Oh, and I've lost my FPS meter here. That's not good, or my temperatures too. Okay, so this one does still look to have playable frame rates. We're going to have to sort of estimate here. Definitely dipping below 30. Look at that. A little bit of lag here. Oh, it's getting a little bit choppy. So it is semi-playable. But yeah, especially with a lot of enemies on now, that's got to be running like at 20 frames per second or something. It is really quite hard to play like this slow. All right, let's move over to another title, and that's another AAA one, Grand Theft Auto 5, and see how that performs on this mini PC. Now, GTA is running really good here. Look at this frame rate. This is over 50 frames per second, sometimes over 60, and that's what we want. This is good, very good. This is much better than the Intel UHD 620 graphics that I was looking at in the Whiskey Lake U mini PC, which was the mini PC I reviewed just before this one. So this is a big step up. That one was, I would say, good 20, 25 frames per second on average, lower than this one here. So even just at, okay, not quite 60 frames per second, but it is still just so playable. Good to see. Now, it will sometimes dip down into the high 30s, but most of the time, it's not really going to happen. Now, when you play at night here in the game, it's a little bit more demanding, so expect to lose maybe about 10 frames per second on average, but it is still playable frames per second, which is the main thing here. So really good to see this. Now I'm going to test out an even lighter title, and that is Counter-Strike. So even though this is just the warm-up, I'm just going to run around to show the frame rate here, that this is looking like it's going to be most of the time over 60, and that's what we want. So this at 1080p is stable, and of course if you want a higher frame rate, then just lower that resolution down to 720p, but I'd still keep it. I would keep it at 1080p here, because I think this is pretty good. This is not bad, right over 70 here, so I'm already probably going to be dead. And no, I didn't die just yet. So onto our thermals that I have been monitoring now for almost 2 hours, and I've been pushing it really hard the whole time, and these thermals are impressive. Very, very good. So the hottest temperatures in this are in fact the SSD, which is kind of normal, 69 degrees. They do get very hot, these SSDs, but let's have a look at the actual CPU. So it's getting up to 66 max, 54 there. That is really, really good. That is so good, considering the kind of performance it has, especially the Vega 8 GPU that it's got. And if we take a look then at the GPU too as well, what did that get up to? Well, 50. That's it, 52. Very, very good. And if you have a look then also at what kind of maximum wattage we were pulling, up to about 26, 27. So yes, it was running at that 25 watts for the TDP that I set there. So it is performing as expected there, but these thermals are just so good. Very good little cooler on there, and just the chipset itself, of course, does run quite cool. Okay, what about fan noise now? On the UDOO Bolt, I noticed that it is constant and it is a little bit loud, and it will sometimes turn off when the temperatures permit, when it gets actually low enough, but that doesn't often happen, not at least with my 25, 26 degrees ambient temperatures. Right now, running the Cinebench test here, I'm just pushing it a little bit to give you a sample of that fan noise, which you can hear right now, and it is slightly annoying. This is probably one of the bigger cons, I'd say, of this particular mini PC, just like others, actually.
So overall, this has been, for me, a fantastic little mini PC. Yes, the CPU performance for me was a little disappointing. I was expecting a bit more than that, and I questioned whether actually it was at one point running at the 25 watts, but it was in the BIOS, and I set it. It was originally there as well. So I went back and double checked this. There was a BIOS update that came through as well too, and it remained at the 25 watts, which is good. And later on, when looking at the power consumption, you could see that yes, it was using 25 watts. The Vega 8 does perform really well, and you saw that with the gaming performance too there. But not only just gaming performance, which is very good for a little tiny mini PC of this size, but also that 4K export time in Adobe Premiere Pro there. 1 minute of footage with the YouTube 4K preset. On most other tech that I review, yes, Intel tech will take about 1 minute, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, depending on what chip it is for a quad core. This did it in under 1 minute. That is absolutely fantastic. Really good to see that and the performance there we're getting. And then even back onto that gaming performance too, quite well. Actually, look at GTA 5. The frame rate was just so much better than the integrated Intel graphics here. So the Vega 8 is good there. Now, when you set it all up, you're going to need to, of course, jump on and download the drivers from AMD's website there. I did have a problem with the AMD software sometimes occasionally crashing on me. That, you know, that flash menu that comes up with your different options. In fact, it kept doing it, and I don't know why that is. It's a little bit buggy, their software, which is no fault of UDOO, but the Bolt V8 and the Bolt gear here that's in this, very good. It really only, for me, has just two things. Well, you could say a borderline three, but the big thing for me is the fan noise. Now, those thermals in this, fantastic. They are so good considering the power that's in this. So I believe they've got a lot more room there to tweak the fan profile. Just lower it down a little bit and just give us a little bit more headroom without that fan coming on and then going off, and it will stay off for hardly any time at all. You have to do something super light, like it's almost when it's idle, then the fan goes off. So I think they can push that a little bit more, and it's just a little irritating, the noise it does make. So maybe with future updates, they can adjust the RPMs, give us maybe slightly higher temperatures, but lower fan noise would be absolutely perfect there. And I know it's got a lot of ports on this. I mean, running 4K monitors at 60 Hertz is great. And the USB 3.1 Type-C ports on here. Power delivery both in and out is great, but I would have liked to have seen just one more full-size USB port. We've got two USB ports, full-size ones, Type A's, but I think 3 Type A's would have been really good for this particular model here. And the other borderline one is the setup. I know they've got guides on YouTube which are really good, but I didn't really know where to place those wireless antennas. I think they just leave it up to the end user where you want to put it there. And when I checked their guides, I couldn't find any info on that, unless I was looking at the wrong place. But overall, this is a really good little mini PC, and I've enjoyed my time testing this out. It is really quite good. Definitely comes recommended from me. Now, the retail price is $399 US, which a lot of people might go, hey, well, hang on, an extra $100 US you can build yourself. There's always those guys in the comments, and you've got that option, but will it be this size? Can you put it on the back of a TV or a monitor with the VESA mount set up? Probably not. Definitely not, I would say. So thank you so much for watching this review, and I do hope to see you back in the next one. Bye for now.